Hello, you're watching Afghan News with Mohsen Jamal. U.S. civilian aid to Afghanistan has peaked, the country's State Department said in a new report declaring the United States would spend less on development assistance here as it withdraws troops from the country. The department said this in a status report on civilian efforts in Afghanistan and Pakistan that was sent to congressional offices on Thursday. U.S. economic and humanitarian aid to Afghanistan has fallen from $4.1 billion in 2010 to $2.5 billion this year. The report by the Office of the Special Representative for Afghanistan and Pakistan said these amounts do not include tens of billions of dollars Washington has spent on training the Afghan Army police. The State Department report said the United States is now shifting from funding stabilization projects in Afghanistan to long-term sustainable development at lower funding levels. It said future U.S. aid in Afghanistan would focus on economic growth, such as in agriculture and mining, as well as infrastructures such as energy and water, and in educational and vocational development. The Pentagon has ruled out any change in the United States' strategy in Afghanistan and said it is currently focused on successful security transition in the war-torn country. Pentagon Press Secretary George Little told the media that the role of the United States military has not shifted or changed. The only firm plans that the United States has at this point is to draw down some of the surge force by the end of the year and additional tranche of surge forces by summer of next year. The drawdown between now and 2014 would be at a steady pace. It would be conditions-based, and that remains the trajectory for U.S. effort as it continues to fight this war with Afghan and NATO partners. Little said in a response to a question about reports that Pentagon and White House were planning to change the mission in Afghanistan. Navy Captain John Kirby, Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Media Operations, said that the strategy has not changed nor has the focus on executing this, adding that transition in 2014 is all about a confident and capable Afghan security forces. He said the United States continues to believe that the reconciliation process, a vital part of the peace effort, is going to be Afghan-led. That is, the Pakistanis should have a role. NATO's chief insisted Thursday that Taliban insurgents have been weakened in Afghanistan despite spectacular headline-grabbing attacks in recent days. At a monthly news conference, Secretary General Anders Fogh Rasmussen said the NATO mission was moving in the right direction and that enemy attacks have actually dropped by 26% from July to September compared to the same period last year. Rasmussen said NATO forces would continue to apply pressure on the Taliban-linked Haqqani network in order to coax them into negotiating an end to the fighting in the 10-year-old war in Afghanistan. He added that the objective to stop Haqqani network attacks on the foreign soldiers and the Afghan population, adding that the group poses a major threat to NATO soldiers and Afghans. Secretary General of the United Nations Ban Ki-moon has stressed that establishing peace in Afghanistan will strengthen stability in the entire region and lauded regional efforts to find ways to enhance security in the Asian country as it prepares for the transition with the pull out of foreign forces in the next 2 years. In a message to a regional conference on Afghanistan convened by Turkey in Istanbul Thursday, Ban said that it has long been recognized that peace and stability in Afghanistan are essential for peace and stability throughout the region. In a message delivered on his behalf by Stefan de Mistura, his special representative for Afghanistan and head of the United Nations Assistance Mission in Afghanistan, the Secretary General said the conference was an encouraging initiative to strengthen regional cooperation as Afghanistan embarks on the transition process. Meanwhile, Ban has urged the international community to reaffirm its conviction that cultural diversity is humanity's strength and not a weakness. 7 miners have been pulled to the surface and rescuers are trying to reach 50 more trapped in the Qiangqiu coal mine in Sanmengxia in Hunan province, central China, after a rock explosion. State media reported that one of the rescued miners was seriously hurt while the 6 others had sustained minor injuries. A small earthquake near the mine caused the rock blast on Thursday evening. 4 miners were killed in the explosion, while 14 managed to escape the blast. At least 200 workers were digging a small rescue tunnel of about 760 meters long in an attempt to reach the trapped miners, but it was unclear what the condition of the tunnel was beyond that point of the collapse. China urged Iran on Friday to show flexibility over its controversial nuclear program and warned that the use of force to resolve the issue was the last thing the Middle East needed at the moment. The United States, Britain, and France have turned up the pressure on Tehran ahead of next week's release of a keenly awaited UN report that may offer new details about the military side of Iran's nuclear program. Washington and its European allies suspect Iran is developing the capability to produce atomic weapons under cover of a civilian nuclear energy program, but Iran denies wanting atom bombs and insists its program is for generating electricity. Russia and China have urged the United Nations nuclear watchdog chief to give Iran time to study and respond to allegations of possible military-linked atomic activities before he publishes the report. The United States and Israel have repeatedly hinted at the possible use of force against Iranian nuclear sites, eliciting threats of fierce retaliation from the Islamic Republic. At least 19 people have reportedly been killed in the flashpoint city of Homs as Syrian security forces bombarded residential areas with tanks. The reported deaths occurred in the Bab Amrud district of Homs on Thursday. The local coordination committees of Syria, an activist group monitoring the country's uprising, said on Wednesday Damascus had agreed to several measures proposed by an Arab League plan, including the removal of a military presence from cities and residential areas. Syria also agreed to release all political prisoners and allow the Arab League and foreign media to monitor and report on the situation. Members of the Syrian National Council, an opposition group, have voiced serious skepticism over Syria's implementation of the deal. A G20 summit of the world's biggest economies is underway in Cannes in southern France, with the issue of the Greek debt crisis commanding the most attention. U.S. President Barack Obama has pledged to stand with European leaders to resolve the Eurozone crisis, but he wants its financial problems dealt with quickly. He's speaking alongside French President Nicolas Sarkozy after the two met privately on the sidelines of the Group of 20 summit on Thursday. Obama said that resolving the European financial crisis is the most important aspect of our task over the next 2 days. At a later meeting with German Chancellor Angela Merkel, Obama said that he saw some progress, looking forward to working together to figure out how to implement this in an effective way to make sure that not only is the Eurozone stable, but the world financial system is stable as well. Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, speaking on the sidelines of the Cannes summit, urged Europe to move swiftly to contain the debt crisis. And that the global output of heat-trapping carbon dioxide jumped by the biggest amount on record, the United States Department of Energy has calculated, in a sign of how weak the world's efforts have been at slowing man-made global warming. The new figure for 2010 mean that levels of greenhouse gases are higher than the worst-case scenario outlined by climate experts just 4 years ago. The world pumped about 564 million more tons of carbon into the air in 2010 than it did in 2009, an increase of 6%. That amount of extra pollution eclipses the individual emissions of all but 3 countries, China, the United States, and India, the world's top producers of greenhouse gases. India and China are huge users of coal, whose burning coal is the biggest carbon source worldwide, and emissions from that jumped nearly 8% in 2010. That's all for now. Thanks for joining us.